It is a completely new year. The old year has passed away and a new year has begun. Cern Basher, I expect even better stuff from you this year because, nobody gets more compliments for the nature of what they do on my show than you do.
That's because I hide behind some charts and graphs. No one can see me, so yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, everybody likes Larry better. It's just, I mean, I'm
well,
sorry.
yes,
I'm
absolutely.
sorry. It's just fact.
And I think South African accents are the best accents in the world.
Really hard to beat. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? They
And
do.
now New Zealand accents are up there too.
They're up. Yeah, yeah. But yours is gone.
Mine's gone.
No, you have no accent. No.
Well, I have some kind of an accent, but I most people cannot place where I'm from anymore.
Yeah, no, I can't hear any of that. And I listen to BritBox like full time. That's what I listen to. That's my show. That's where all my shows are, all those murder mystery shows.
Yes.
So I'm really familiar with all those various British accents.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, sorry
Yeah.
that mine confounds you so much.
Yours is gone. It's gone. Sorry.
I lived in the Midwest far too long.
Far too long.
I
Yes.
have the newscaster accent now.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was born and raised in St. Louis, and I'm supposed to have this kind of neutral accent, but there are words, apparently. Treasure, measure. People say those are not supposed to be long A's. I don't get it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're just not measuring up, I guess, Randy.
All right.
All
So
right. On that note,
with all that said, what do you
let
got?
me first of all wish you a very happy new year.
You go. Yeah.
And, continuing on from last year, the bull says, actually, I've been partying all year.
That's right. And
So why not just continue?
that's
Just continue the party.
what a good idea. We were partying all year until I don't know what was that last Friday or something.
Well, I have a chart for that.
Well, you have a chart for that.
So his Santa on the couch, he's just consumed, looks like a few brews and some pizza,
Yeah, yeah.
and a couple bulls standing behind him. So is he going to rally or not?
Yes, the Santa Claus rally was more about the color of his coat than it
Yeah.
was about the nature that we normally associate with the Santa Claus rally.
Well, I think we need to be more specific in the future. We need an up rally, not a down rally.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
It was actually a shorts rally.
Shorts rally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was good. It was still a good year. And let's go through some of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with an asset that's done pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with Bitcoin. Last year, Bitcoin was only up 121%.
Not bad.
Not bad, but relative to the prior year where it was up 155, that was actually a weak year for Bitcoin.
Yeah. What's wrong with it?
What's
Sheesh.
wrong with it?
Yeah.
And MicroStrategy, which is essentially a bit of a levered play on Bitcoin, was up 359%.
359%.
Now, at one point in December, it was up, I think, over 500% for the year, but the stock was pretty weak in the last few weeks.
Yes. Yes.
So it came back down a lot.
So you were
But yeah,
recommending to me that if I really want to lever, I should do leaps on MicroStrategy. Is that your number one recommendation right now to all the folks listening?
well, no financial advice shall be given on this show, but for those that like double leverage, that's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, not a recommendation for your
Yeah,
viewers.
yeah, yeah.
Tesla. Tesla had a pretty good year. It was up 63% last year,
Okay.
on the heels of a 103% gain the prior year. So two solid back-to-back years.
Yeah.
Stock hit a new all-time high last year. So that was great.
Right.
Again, a little bit weak going into the end of the year,
Yeah.
and that weakness has unfortunately continued today.
Hmm.
Um, and then compared to the S&P though, which was up 25% last year, was also pretty strong on the heels of a 26% gain the prior year.
Yes. Yes. In fact, the two back-to-back years like that are unusual, and a third year in a row like that would be unheard of.
Yeah, although look at 2019, 2020, and 2021, 31, 18, and 29.
So yeah, yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, that's pretty good.
it's pretty
And
decent.
you don't have to go back too far. Here's 20, 12, 16%, 32, and 14%. That's pretty good.
Right.
So if we only get, an up 15% year in the S&P, I'd be okay with that.
So, I don't want to get ahead of you, but I looked it up, and Tesla today, if it's still where it is as we're recording this, let me take a quick look here. We're sitting at 378. We'd have to go all the way back to December 5th to be that low.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So long ago, it's hard to remember that
it's hard to
time
remember.
last year.
Yes.
Right. Yep. So lots of volatility. It's interesting though, over this time period since Tesla's IPO, the S&P is up 7.5 times,
Okay.
and Tesla is only up 356 times.
Right.
So pretty strong results.
Hmm.
Now, if we compare it with our friend NVIDIA, NVIDIA has done better over the same time period. It was up 171% last year.
Nice.
And since Tesla's IPO, it's up 559 times.
Yeah.
So not bad at all. Okay. Another stock in that space, just to compare it to NVIDIA, ASML, company that makes equipment that helps semiconductor makers make the high-end AI chips.
Uh-huh.
Without this company, those chips would not be possible. So that
Right.
includes all of NVIDIA's high-end chips. That stock last year was down 8%.
Look at that.
But over the long haul, done pretty well. It's up 36x since Tesla's IPO. I'm just using Tesla's IPO as a start
Yes.
date here,
Got it.
just to so we've got apples to apples comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then Amazon, it was up 44% last year. It's up 40x since Tesla's IPO.
Hmm.
And our good friend Apple was up
Yeah.
31% last year, and it's up 32 times since Tesla's IPO date.
Okay.
So, all these companies have done very well. And of course, we've cherry picked some of the best names.
Right.
Um, Here's a chart from Charlie looking at S&P returns versus international returns going back to 1970.
Okay.
And the S&P trounced the international index by almost 20% last year. And I think it's one of the better you know, di differentials between the two.
Yeah.
I see, 1976, the S&P outperformed by 24.5%, 24.6% in 1982, massively underperformed in 1986. So
Hmm.
it's not uncommon to have big differences in the two indexes.
Right.
And it's also not uncommon to have a string of very strong results for the S&P, or in red here for the international index to outperform for a period of time.
Right.
So we've been on a pretty good string here now for the U.S. outperforming international markets.
Hmm.
Um, who knows
What
whether
will
this will
happen?
continue or
Yes.
not. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. And then here's the chart that we've seen before of the different asset classes.
Hmm.
Again, Bitcoin at the top, up 121%. It's averaged 147% per year since 2011. U.S. growth stocks have averaged about 16% per year,
Hmm.
and they were up 33% last year.
Hmm.
So big difference in the first one versus the second. But overall, it was a strong year last year. The only thing that was negative was long duration treasuries.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you invested in something you made money last year. At least
Yeah.
chances are that you did.
So, as a contrarian, you would say, okay, that then long duration treasuries is where I should be putting my money right now.
Yeah, and if that's the case, if long duration treasuries rally, that means interest rates are coming down.
Right.
So that would also probably bode well for equity investments.
Exactly. True.
If the discount rate is coming down, the valuations would likely go up. And
Yep.
that was the source of some of the weakness in stocks for the last couple of weeks
Right.
of 2024. All right, now let's get stock specific.
Okay.
Here's a chart again from Charlie showing the best stocks in the S&P over the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years.
Hmm.
NVIDIA is at the top of the list. Tesla is number 2 on the 5-year list.
Hmm.
On the 10-year list, Tesla's number 7.
Hmm.
I don't see it offhand on the 15-year list or the 20-year list.
Okay.
But Tesla's only been around for 14 some years, so that's
Yeah,
probably explains why.
15 and 20 would be hard.
Yes, if you didn't exist for that period of time. There's always a logical explanation, Randy, for these things if you just look for it. Yeah. But NVIDIA is definitely a standout here,
Yeah, no kidding.
right? But over the 20 years, Netflix has done well, Apple, and some other companies that we've talked about in the past. So
Sure.
that's always interesting to take a look at.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see if and when Tesla outseats or, takes the place of NVIDIA at some point
Yeah, yeah. Well, it takes the
when that
place of
happens.
Apple at the very top of the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of market cap, yeah, but in
Yeah.
terms of returns,
Right,
5, 10, 15,
right,
20-year returns,
right.
perhaps by the time Tesla actually has 20 years of history, maybe it gets there.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
All right. Forget about history. Let's come back to the present. This was from today. Tesla announced a little thing that people seem to care about, Randy, their production and delivery numbers. Um, so interestingly, deliveries outpaced production by a sizable amount.
It should be good for free cash flow.
Should be great. Yep. And there's a little on the third line here, energy storage deployments,
Right.
11 gigawatt hours.
Yes.
Seems like a small number, Randy. What does this mean?
Well, that means that on this choppy thing, because it is very choppy, um, I had already predicted that we would be at 11 or 12 because last quarter we were down from
Yeah,
the previous quarter, which was 9. So since we I think went from 9 to 7 roughly,
6.9.
6.9, well, that's pretty close to 7.
Yep.
We went from 9 to 7, that we would probably be up and probably higher than the 9 because none of these numbers, even the 11 gigawatt hours, is not quite 100% of production. So we're
Right.
getting closer, but we're not quite to 100% of production.
Well, let's look at some of these things visually. So here's the delivery chart, and you can see that this last quarter, even though it didn't exceed, the expectations of the very important folks on Wall Street,
Right,
that this was a record quarter.
right.
Yeah, sure, it would have been nice if the company, sold more than 500,000 vehicles in one quarter. That would have been cool.
Now, if we think about that for a minute, though, going back to those production numbers and what was a tremendous reduction in inventory, I saw some other commentary this morning that this could very well be that they just ran out of Model Ys.
Yes. Yep. That certainly wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have helped the situation. Uh, I would have suggested to those people that they just buy a Cybertruck, but I guess not enough of them did that.
There may not have been enough Cybertrucks either.
Well, I think there were some inventory vehicles at the end of the quarter because they offered a, free supercharging for life deal
Right, right.
on some of those vehicles. So I'd be curious to know how many people were able to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was the quarterly deliveries. Here's the change in the quarterly deliveries quarter from quarter. So it was we've had 3 positive quarters in this now
hmm
after Q1's really weak results.
hmm
Bounce back in Q2 and then Q3 and Q4, we saw some nice growth. Here is the cumulative quarterly deliveries. Tesla has now delivered over 7 million vehicles.
hmm
Of course, not all of those will be in operation today.
Sure.
But still, this is a pretty nice milestone and rapidly growing. And then from a production side, this was not a record quarter in production. And it's clear that the company intentionally has scaled back production in Q4.
Yeah.
And the expectation is that they're going to be coming out with the Model Y refresh, Juniper, and or other vehicles at some point in 2025.
Right.
Okay. Here's the change in production. You can see a drop versus Q3
hmm
at the top of the chart. And then the cumulative production now is well over 7 million.
Right.
And then what I like to do is track the trailing 12-month production versus deliveries. And as you can see, the production number in the blue line was ahead of deliveries.
hmm
But those 2 lines now have crossed.
Right.
So, and then put another way, this is the quarterly production versus deliveries number, and you can see that they've been working down the number of vehicles available after building inventories pretty aggressively for a number of quarters.
Right.
Okay. Now, you have to remember that you should expect this chart to go up over time because as you grow, you need more inventory to satisfy demand. So we're not going to get down to that 20,000 vehicle number that we saw back in 2022. Right. And that was too low for that time.
Right.
I don't know what the steady state inventory number should be for Tesla, but it's not that low and it's probably not as high as 160,000 at this point.
Right.
Okay. In terms of their global vehicle inventory is measured by days of supply,
Mm-hmm.
and you simply take the new vehicle ending inventory divided by quarterly deliveries divided by 75. It's not a 90-day quarter for this measure. It's a 75-day quarter.
Okay.
Okay. And so by that measure, you get about 12 days of inventory at the end of the quarter versus 19 at the end of Q3.
Yeah.
So that's getting pretty low
Right. Historically.
historically,
Yep.
right? And one of the things, as you know, that I like to do is measure what I call true inventory days.
Mm-hmm.
And this is taking into account the fact that when you make a car in Shanghai, and if you're shipping it somewhere around the world, it's going to take a while for it to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take into the transportation time of the cars in any factory, not just Shanghai, but in Texas and also in Europe, the true inventory days actually now is probably negative.
Right.
And so that's a short-term thing. The previous time that inventory days were negative was kind of the post-pandemic challenges. And you can see it took kind of a couple of years to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
This one is company induced. The companies decided to do this,
Right.
right? There was nothing really necessarily stopping them from producing more if they wanted to. Obviously, if clearly they didn't want to or didn't feel like they needed to.
Right.
Okay. All right. Energy. So this is off the charts great. As you mentioned, this is lumpy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Third quarter was down 6.9 gigawatt hours. The previous quarter, I think, was 9.4. That was the previous high, and that was a big jump from Q1. This was the big shocker for a lot of people.
Right.
Q3 was down, and now Q4 has been solid again.
Right. And I think roughly speaking, the production capacity is 10 for the megapacks and maybe another 2 to 3 for the power walls. So in order to really get 100% recognition of what's going out the door, it's got to be something above 12.
Yeah, this is annual capacity here in the red line, Lathrop plus Powerwall.
Mm-hmm.
I've got roughly about 50 gigawatt hours a year,
Okay. Yeah.
40 at Lathrop and 10 for Powerwall.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, now we can also add the new Shanghai
Right.
mega factory on
Right.
here. The stated capacity to that is 40 gigawatt hours. I think that's massively understated. So this
Either that
red
or
bar,
either that or they've all of a sudden gotten to the place where they are going to use way more space rather than
yeah,
less space.
that's right. So at the very least, this red bar probably doubles
Right.
and maybe even triples.
Right.
So there's plenty of capacity in this business to ramp up production. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly that green line can follow the production capacity. Clearly, it's on a great trajectory.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it may take a little while, even if Shanghai begins, producing and shipping megapacks this quarter. It may take a little while for the revenue recognition to follow. So we'll have to watch that and see.
We had a report yesterday that they had begun production, that they
Yeah,
were already in production. So
yeah. It's just a question now of how quickly that the
right.
revenue will
Right.
follow through.
Right.
So it may be one of those things where for Q1, Q2, and maybe even Q3, we're sort of saying, oh, where's the Shanghai numbers? And then all of a sudden, Q4, we might get hit with a wall of cash.
Right. Right.
So some patience may be required there in terms of recognizing that revenue.
Right.
Um, yeah, just to go back here, here's the trailing 12 months.
Mm.
So you can see the growth in this business has been pretty astonishing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at 31.4 gigawatt hours delivered or deployed over the last 12 months.
Right. Yeah, one of the things that we should see potentially in 2025 would be something closer to 100%. In other words, we might see a full 50 from US, from the power walls and megapacks together. So we should be picking up some of the old unrecognized portion while shipping out some of the new. That should
Yeah.
start, I think the lumpiness should somewhat smooth out and pick up the Powerwall. So we could be looking at almost 50 compared to, what did you say for last year? 30?
31.4 is the official total.
31.4. So we could see a 50+% increase just from recognition of and flattening of the curve, plus some additional coming out of Shanghai might give us a doubling, which is what Elon said we should expect.
Yes. Yeah. I expect the business will get a little bit less lumpy going forward now that you've got multiple production sources,
Mm-hmm.
but that may still take a little bit of time for that to kick in.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's all good things are coming for Tesla's energy business. Um,
And
I
I
wrote a
always like
post.
and I always like to remind people that the facility that we just built in Shanghai is the equivalent of about 300,000 of the new Model Qs in terms of sales and profits.
Yeah. I wrote a post this morning, Randy, and I was feeling a little bit feisty, I guess. I wrote the post titled Tesla, Wall Street is dumb. And this is a screenshot from one of the chart that I put in there.
Okay.
And what this represents is the red bar.
Yes.
If Tesla had delivered 500,000 vehicles in the quarter versus what they did deliver,
Yes.
496,000,
Yes.
is 4,432 vehicles difference.
Right.
If Tesla earned $7,000 per vehicle in gross profit like they did in Q3, so
Uh-huh.
assuming they earned the same amount in
Yeah.
Q3,
Yeah.
they forego 31 million of gross profit.
Okay.
So that's what missing 500,000 vehicles meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So roughly for every 4,400 vehicles, it's $31 million in gross
Got it.
profit.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Now, on the Tesla energy side, the company for prior to this quarter had averaged 5.2 gigawatt hours of energy deployed in the last 4 quarters,
Uh-huh.
right? So ignoring this Q4, the 4 quarters prior to that, 5.2. This quarter, they delivered 11.4. And when you factor in the profitability of energy, using Q3 numbers, the total amount of extra profit that the company has generated is about $500 million.
Okay.
So for Wall Street to say, "Oh, we're disappointed with Tesla's delivery numbers. It should have been 500,000, or it should have been, 505,000, or whatever the number was,"
Right.
right? Fine. But
Okay.
you have to give the company some credit for
I
doing an
mean,
amazing job of growing energy.
right. Yes.
Now, the problem is we don't really know what Wall Street's expectations were for the energy business.
They didn't have any.
Well, maybe not. And if that's the case, then this number is even bigger than this.
Right. Right.
If their expectations were more than 5.2
Yeah. Yeah.
gigawatt hours of energy deployed in the quarter, then the number is less than this. But either way, this number, by the way, is 17 times higher
Right.
than the foregone profits from autos.
Yeah. Let's I don't know how if we could do this in our head, but I would say that maybe if there was any expectation at all, it would have been for going back to the 9 as
Right?
opposed to 11. That still would have given them,
So for every gigawatt hour, it's $105 million of gross profit.
that would be 200 million extra dollars for the
Yeah.
quarter. And if we say that the expectation for cars was closer to 208, I'm sorry, 508, that would be 3 times this number. So about
Yeah.
less than 100 million. So the overall total, I think, beat Wall Street's expectations. No
By
matter,
by the tune
no
of
matter how you,
100 plus million in gross profit. Yep.
even if you go all the way to Elon's number of 515,000, you would still, I think, have a beat
Yeah.
in terms of the total. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And so, and the auto thing may have been a little bit self-inflicted. If they decided to run the inventory down, they may have had a shortage of Model Ys in the quarter.
Oh, I think that there's every evidence that they were out
Yeah.
of Model Y inventory in many sections, people reporting all over the country that
Yeah.
uh, whatever Model Ys were there, they weren't the ones that people wanted, and the ones that people wanted, they were completely wiped out and had been for weeks in some
Yeah.
cases. Yeah,
So I think that situation could be corrected fairly shortly.
right.
My personal take is if they did draw down inventory as much, and if they are at a negative true inventory days, it's in the company's best interest to ramp up production of the new vehicles as fast as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're hearing through the grapevine that, in fact, is exactly what's happening.
At least in Shanghai, we haven't heard anything yet
Yeah,
about California or Austin or Berlin. Don't even
yeah,
know if they're building them in Berlin, but hopefully.
yeah. So I think we'll know in short order about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of new vehicles, this was kind of a cool image of, is this the Model Y Juniper? Does it have a front light bar? Is it, we going to get the Cybertruck version of the Model Y?
Yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Randy?
Yeah, okay. Light bars are nice. I just want the Juniper out. I just want it to be, I want to see the final version. We're not going to buy one, but I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a huge seller because of pent-up demand, both of those who don't own a Model Y at all yet and have been waiting for it, and
Yeah.
those who do own a Model Y who are going to want to upgrade. I think that's just those two groups alone will create enough demand probably to take care of the first quarter.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did a very nice job with the Model 3 refresh.
Oh yeah.
And my expectations for the Model Y are as as good as that, if not better.
Hmm.
And obviously, this is a very important vehicle for Tesla at this
Right.
point.
Right.
So yeah. The sooner they unveil this and start selling it, the better for sure. And hopefully, it does lead to a strong first quarter.
Oh, interesting that this is sitting in a showroom in Arizona with the wrap on it. Okay.
Yeah, it would lead me to believe that there's a presentation,
Yeah.
imminent, right?
Yeah. That's what one would think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how closely they're guarding this, but if there's anybody in Arizona who wants to quickly lift that cover,
Just-
you know, that would be great.
yeah.
Um, Not encouraging people to do anything they shouldn't be doing, but we are curious.
We are. We are. Yellow.
Yeah. All right. So I think this mystery will be solved very soon, is my expectation.
Yes, yes.
And perhaps by the time you and I meet next week, we may know.
We might, and you could have a whole slideshow about it.
Right. That's right. All right. Um, this was kind of fun. I came across actually a friend of mine sh shared a video by 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐲 about all the different voice commands.
Yeah.
And he compiled a nice list. I took his list, which was on a Google Doc. It wasn't very print friendly, and compiled my own, but this is his work.
Hmm.
I did correct one typo where he had the same explanation for two different commands, but otherwise, this is entirely his work.
Got it.
And there's all kinds of cool things on here, and I think most people, who looked at this list, were very pleased to see it and found something that they wished that they were aware of. So this post actually got a pretty incredible response,
I would think. Yes. Yes.
right? I think there was close to 1 million views on this,
Wow.
and there was one view in particular that I was kind of pleased to see, and this one from Kimball Musk.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually reposted it. And he says, "Thank you for posting. People have no idea how much energy and love is going into our software at Tesla to make our owners' experience better every day. Thank you, Team Tesla."
That could have been part of the reason you got 1 million views.
Could have been. Could have been a small factor. Yeah. The post was already doing very well prior to him
Right.
commenting,
Right.
but yes. Yeah. So as nice as this is, I'll just go back to the list and encourage folks to, do a screenshot, or if you go to my X account, you can find this and you can print it
Sure.
out.
For
Share
sure.
it with anybody and everybody that owns any Tesla vehicle. Try these commands out.
And
There's definitely some fun ones on here.
yeah, I had seen someone say that you could say, Siri, open the trunk from the outside the car. And I tried that and it didn't work. And apparently you have to do something to your Apple phone to connect it somehow. Somebody sent me a note on that. I should have written it down, but there's something you have to do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and all these commands are for inside the vehicle.
Right.
And you can say different things. For example, my butt is cold. Apparently that's a command. And
Yeah.
it will turn on the heat in the seat.
Right. Right.
Someone also said that you can say something like, she is hot, right? And that'll turn on the air conditioner or reduce the temperature for the passenger.
I see. Okay.
So that's kind of a fun one to play around with
Yeah.
with your wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So different fun things like that. But yeah, anyway, I think this is quite helpful. And then, now, of course, this is all pre-Grok.
Yeah.
And in the not too distant future, we will all be able to just have a conversation with our vehicle. We won't need to memorize any commands.
I'm waiting for that day. As you
Yeah,
well know, this is this is my great come and get it day.
yeah. And won't this be quaint when we're looking back at this list and saying, oh, people back then in late 2024, early 2025 needed a cheat sheet to remember all the
Yeah.
commands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, this is where we are today, and here's your handy cheat sheet.
Okay.
And thanks to Shiva for posting this. He also did a video that's on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you go to YouTube and look up his name, you'll find it. And he discusses all kinds of cool stuff in that video.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the list of here's the lineup of Tesla vehicles as it stands from a few days ago and their rough prices.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, $34,000 vehicles, 35,000 on up to, 100,000 for the Cybertruck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're getting there in terms of having lots of different price points. Tax credits certainly help at many, many different levels.
For sure.
And it'll be interesting to see this year with new vehicles, how this looks, 6, 12 months from now.
Well, the Cybertruck, or am I getting ahead of you again?
No?
Okay, the Cybertruck now has a $7,500 tax credit.
Yeah, it's not showing on here, is it?
It's not, and that was announced yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're not 100% sure why that changed. Maybe because of the new cathode or the new anode plant might be spitting out anodes. But anyway, so the $80,000 four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive is now 72.5. So
Nice.
yep.
That's really good. And I think with yesterday's events of the Cybertruck in Las Vegas,
Yes.
I think that actually could spur sales of the Cybertruck as people realize how tough that vehicle is.
You can carry your fireworks in
You
this
can
thing.
carry your fireworks and your battery pack will remain unexploded. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So terrible event. Sorry to see that happen, but certainly from a marketing perspective, probably good marketing for Tesla. I noticed a lot of people on X afterwards were saying, this is like the most American thing you can do at this point is buy a Cybertruck.
That's right. That's right. And
Right.
there's the old adage, just spell my name right.
Yeah,
You know.
that's right. Yeah, we'll get that paperwork out to you shortly, Randy. All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit and end on a review of SpaceX's Starlink.
Wow.
They issued a nice little report. I think it was about 60 some pages, kind of highlighted their results for 2024. So Starlink now, at the beginning of the year last year, they had 2 million customers, and they finished the year with 4.6 million customers
Hmm.
in 118 countries.
Hmm.
And they offer service now to, what could be total 2.8 billion people have the opportunity to sign up for Starlink.
Okay.
So they're currently serving 4.6 million of the 2.8 billion.
Right.
So just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
The number of launches, the Falcon launch rate continues to be pretty astonishing. And the key thing here is the reusability of Falcon rockets.
Mm-hmm.
The dark gray is the new boosters, and the white is the flight-proven boosters.
Hmm.
So that's pretty amazing. And obviously that has massively decreased the launch cost
Right.
of sending Starlinks and other satellites up into space. In terms of Starlink capacity, that's rising rapidly. They now have over 300 terabits per second capacity.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's really largely thanks to the Starlink V2 mini satellite, which is 22% lighter than the previous one. And it weighs just under 1,300 pounds, each
Right.
satellite. So for a satellite, that's a pretty lightweight thing. Okay. Falcon 9s, by the way, now can launch or carry up to 29 V2 satellites per launch.
Mhm.
And there's over 7,000 Starlink satellites in orbit right now. And there were 134 Falcon launches last year. 89 of those were Starlink dedicated.
Hmm.
So
So
SpaceX
they're
is its own biggest customer.
so they're about halfway to their first. I guess maybe there was an earlier like goal, but my recollection was 14,400 was their kind of agreement with the FAA or whoever has to approve that uh, uh, at kind of the first level of
Yeah.
their expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're making some headway on that. And then in terms of offering Starlink direct to cell phone, Starlink launched 10 times more satellites that have that capability versus the rest of the world combined.
Hmm.
So there are other providers starting to do that as well, but Starlink, SpaceX is way ahead of everybody. So the nice thing about that is now you can have self-service anywhere in the world,
Right.
right? The lasers, they have a system now of more than 13,000 bidirectional laser links
Mm.
that enable global coverage.
Mm.
So it's pretty amazing.
You
And it's
know,
not just on Earth, but also off Earth into space as well,
right.
with the Dragon crew being able to use it to
You know
communicate back
that
to Earth.
there's an application for that in your industry, right?
Is there?
Yeah, if you use these lasers, you can get that fraction of a second benefit
Yeah,
in terms of your trading time.
that's right. And that's worth a lot of money to those high frequency traders.
It can be, yes.
So I hope that SpaceX is not just charging them, $100 a month for that.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so that technology is pretty amazing. The Starlink Mini terminal, I have one of these. It's incredible. It weighs like 2.5 pounds. You can
Mm.
carry it anywhere. You can carry it in a backpack. Scott
Hmm.
Walter, I think, has a video of him working on the beach using
Hmm.
it. So that's pretty amazing to have a
Scott's not really,
satellite dish
Scott has a
that
lot of
small.
hair in that picture.
Sorry?
Scott has a lot of hair in that picture.
Yeah, well, he's
Oh, that's
he's
not a beach. Oh, that's not a beach. Okay.
he's incognito there, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. And now Starlink is now on 75,000 vessels, ships around the world.
5,000.
And it's serving more than 300 cruise ships globally. So that's pretty amazing. They've made big headway there. And of course, also on airplanes. I don't
Yes.
know what the total number is. It was in the report. I just don't recall.
Yeah.
But they're making some,
2,400 comes to mind.
could be. And then last but not least, their production facility in Bastrop, Texas, which is right across the street from the Boring Company headquarters, where they make the proof rock boring machines.
Mhm.
This has become a pretty massive manufacturing facility.
Yeah.
They're producing 70,000 customer kits a week
Hmm.
locally at this location and 110,000 within the US, which is annual capacity of 5.5 million.
Hmm.
So they ended the year with 4.6 million customers, and they've got capacity right now of 5.5 million
Nice.
and growing that.
Yeah.
Um, it's also the largest maker of printed circuit boards in the United States.
Oh, wow.
So again, are you surprised that Elon's company is a manufacturing powerhouse? Not just in vehicles, but with this as well.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah. So if you're looking for further evidence that one day they'll be able to crank out lots of humanoid bots, here's another data point.
This would be one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, Jeff Lutz and I discussed that in detail on Wednesday night. I couldn't get him to fully commit to my numbers for 2026 and 2027, but he was at least leaning towards my numbers.
Well, you have to lean in order to commit. There's a staged effect there. If you keep at it, Randy, I think you'll get there.
So CERN, you're a financial wizard, a guru of types with regard to financial things. What are you looking at in 2025 for the economy? What do you, not for Tesla? Everybody's got their theory on Tesla. You may or may not have a price target for Tesla, but what about the economy in general? Are you enthusiastic, confident, excited for the new administration and the potential for 2025?
Yeah, let me first say that predictions are difficult, especially those about the future,
Yes, I've heard that.
right? I think that's a Yogi Berra saying, if I'm not mistaken.
So,
So I generally try to shy away from predictions. All that said, I'm optimistic about 2025. I'm optimistic about Elon's efforts with the Department of Government Efficiency, right? I hope and I believe that they'll be pretty thoughtful about that.
mhm.
I do believe that there's a lot of waste and inefficiency in the government, and it would be awesome if we could really tackle that in some serious way. And I hope that's the case. I hope that both parties see the opportunity to streamline government in ways that make sense. All right, and don't just make this a political,
Right,
battle.
right, right.
Maybe I'm too naive there with respect to that, but I guess maybe it doesn't matter if the Republicans have enough, power in Congress just to do whatever they want for the next couple of years, then they can make a lot of headway.
Assuming that they'll all get on the same page and
Well, that's the other risk.
yes.
Yeah, you get infighting in the party. Yeah. So I'm optimistic about that.
Uh-huh.
And if that's the case, then I think I'm optimistic about inflation. I'm optimistic about interest rates. I'm optimistic about earnings. That said, that optimism is tempered by the reality of, the world's a pretty messy place.
Yeah,
And I'm sure we're going to have some significant challenges. Whether they rear their ugly head in 2025 or not, I don't know. But we always have to expect some stuff out of left field.
sure,
And those will be the market defining events for the year.
sure, sure.
Absent all that, particularly for Tesla, I'm very optimistic about where they're headed. I don't necessarily know what that means for the stock price this year, but the company clearly is setting itself up for an incredible future in the, 5, 10, 15 years ahead.
Right.
I leave it to others to sort of pontificate about where the stock price is going to be in the short term, right? I think AJ does an amazing job of looking at quarterly earnings and dissecting that and analyzing that and predicting those.
Uh-huh.
And there are other people that do a nice job of that too. So I defer to them on those specifics, right? The crazy numbers that I have for Tesla, that's in the out years, and I don't even really give you a date about
Yeah,
when it's going to hit that. I'm more concerned about, is the rocket lifting off and is it headed in the right direction, to use a
yeah,
space
yeah,
analogy?
yeah.
I'm not really too worried about when the rocket's gonna, get to a certain level. I just know that it's headed in the right way and it's got enough thrust to get there eventually.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we do know that your current valuation for Tesla is 3,000.
yes,
It's just a matter of the company growing into
that's
its
right.
what its valuation should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appear to be one of very few people that ascribe what I would call reasonable assumptions about the future for Robotaxi and Optimus,
Yes, I would agree with your reasonable expectations, which
right?
which mirror mine, but I can't get my other co-hosts to come along for the ride. We'll get there though.
You'll get them there eventually.
Right, right.
Um, and other people are more cautious about that, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But I also think that we're in good company with the likes of ARK Invest, and Elon has talked about ARK many times
Right.
about their team being directionally right in terms of robotaxi.
Yep.
The interesting thing about ARK is they don't yet model Optimus.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
not part of their price target yet.
Right.
And maybe this year it will be. We'll see.
Yeah, on the robotaxi, I would be the first to admit that we don't know how many Tesla owners are going to give up their car for part or all of a day to go out and earn money for them. So not having that percentage, we
Yeah.
don't really know how that's going to work. Number two, we really don't know um, how many people are going to quickly jump into a driverless car for a taxi ride, or how many of people will give up their automobile entirely so they have more room in their garage and then start taking ride hail because it's so inexpensive and so convenient for them. We don't know what those percentages will be or how fast that change in the culture will take place. I'm thinking that ultimately by the 2030s, the vast majority of people will be doing that. But we don't know. And we don't know how many people will jump off of trains, buses, and even airplanes in order to get into robotaxis, which might be less expensive and get you there sooner, which could be an entire another group of potential sales for robotaxis. And then we don't know how Tesla is going to work out the financial side of it. Are they going to? My polling has shown that people are perfectly willing to pay more
Yeah.
for a driverless vehicle than they would for one with a driver in it.
Yeah.
But will that be the approach, or will Tesla come out 50 cents cheaper than Uber? We just don't know how all this is going to be. So all of those numbers are pretty important to know how it ends up at the bottom line.
Well, let's pick that apart just a little bit.
Sure.
And we don't need to go too deep into it, but we know what the market is for rideshare today. We know what
Right.
people are willing to pay for rideshare and where that market is.
Right.
And it's very clear that when we do modeling for robotaxi, that it would be very easy for Tesla to undercut that.
Right.
And you wouldn't need to undercut it by much to draw that market away from where it is today.
Right.
And then the question is, as you expand the market, put more vehicles in supply, and are able to lower the price even more, that demand is not going to be linear. ARK Invest is showing, it's an exponential curve in terms of if you lower those costs, the demand is going to go up exponentially, right? So it's not too difficult to see. This is an obvious statement that economics is going to drive this transition.
Right.
And so I'm not worried about the demand because the demand for the demand for transportation is already there. Right now, we satisfy it in all these different ways. And eventually, we're going to have then a new competitor come in at a much more reasonable price point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to suck all this towards it. There is a question about timing, and in some markets, it might be faster than others.
Mm-hmm.
But if Tesla is truly able to scale up production of the Cybercab, they should be able to meet that demand pretty quickly. The other thing, too, is I think there are a lot of people like me that are holding on to an older Tesla, and my Tesla's not that old, for the hope of putting that in a robotaxi network. And as soon as I can do that, I'm going to with that vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably going to buy another one.
Right.
Right. And then I may discover, oh, I didn't really need to buy another one because I can use robotaxi myself. And then I'd put that second one into the fleet.
Right.
Right. My modeling and others have shown that if Tesla did this alone, they could make more money. But
Yes.
I have said that I think there's actually a business risk to Tesla in doing that.
Mm.
And I think they recognize that. It would be far better for them to create economic opportunities for other people,
Mm-hmm.
allow them to be owners of the vehicles, allow them to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And that strengthens Tesla because now it's not just Tesla against the world, it's Tesla and all the vehicle operators,
Right.
right? And that could be a pretty big voice.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tesla then is seen as not, making this crazy, crazy margin on each vehicle, they're sharing that wealth with other people. To me, that's a really attractive situation.
I would agree. I would agree. So it'll be super interesting to see how all of that plays out.
Yeah,
And then an Optimus on top of it. It's going to be a wild and crazy 2025.
it is.
All right, Cern Basher, thank you so much, as always, for coming on and giving us some mathematical backup to what might already be bouncing around in our head in a kind of a general way. It's always nice to know that there's statistical backing for our nonsense. I mean, for the clever things that we have in our head.
Even if it's just numbers pulled out of the air and put onto a spreadsheet, it's
It looks
some
like
backup.
it just looks so great on a spreadsheet. There's
That's right.
or on a pictogram, if you will. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
All
no,
right.
there's definitely a lot more that we don't know than we know at this point, but as each day goes by, we learn a little bit more.
That's right. Okay, Cern Basher, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And Cern, we will see you next week. And it's been great talking to you all.
Thanks, Randy.